Many people, even the hardest heads, are starting to understand the changes in the weather that are going on, and they're starting to see some alarming facts come about, even in the bought and paid for media. Things that the media are too stupid themselves to realize give away the fact that they are telling on their owners, and all this environmental modification that's been going on in the last 50 years, which actually culminated here in the United States after 9/11. My book, Devil Vision, details a lot of the technology that has been developed and is being used for behavior modification, ultra surveillance, basically to enforce a police state and to enforce the superiority of a small group of people who have taken over the American government through religion and things like that. Mostly money, though. Although, as I mentioned in other videos, right now what we are seeing, and it is rather comical, except that it is like everything else these people do, very painful. We're seeing them pull the rug right out from under themselves, and this is something they can't seem to control. This is something that they don't really have much of a knowledge of, because and that shows because they do it all the time. They do it constantly. This is the way they are. There is no way to stop them from doing it, and a problem is they bring everyone down with them when they do it. And they always use this as their trump. They say, you do what we say or we will do this, and then they kill themselves along with everyone else. So what glory is there in that, And this is something that has been shown down through history. It's not something I'm making up. It's not something that just happened yesterday. This is the way things are, and there's no way possible for the people to. The problem is that these scientists are not working together. None of them. They all are working for the false god, the god of profit. And, that means that if they can somehow create a need, like let's say make someone sick, and then sell them the drug that makes them better, or at least keeps them from being in so much pain, that's the way these people operate. They do not work together. They have a very basic understanding of things that they profess to be authorities upon. They do not understand something as simple as if scalar activity and experimentation with antenna in the ionosphere affect things like the core of the Earth, or the hydrosphere, or the magnetosphere here on Earth. What makes them think it will not affect lunar and solar activity? They just don't get it. They don't see that it's all interconnected. Now they've been spraying lines and heating the ground and trying to rehydrate an area that was dehydrated in a warfare episode where the Soviet Union actually won the Cold War, but this was all kept quiet because Americans aren't to know about this type of thing. That would be too demoralizing, they think. And besides, Americans might actually decide to throw off their yoke and take their country back if they really realize that we'd been sold out by our politicians, and that we did not win the war. We've been losing wars now for what? Since I was born, right shortly thereafter, all the wars we got involved in, we lost. And so, but they keep Americans arrogant, and they keep them thinking that, hey, we are still the best. And unfortunately, fortunately, I don't know actually how to put it. We are still the best, but what they've done slowly is bring the world up a little bit and America down a lot. The standard of living here, the ability for us to do business. Every time we get to the point where we can do business amongst ourselves, this is legislated against. Now they've tried to legislate against our ability to make our own food. And they know that legislation doesn't really work. They can make all the laws they want, but people will still break those laws, and they will say, the law is unfair. The people understand the jury instinct, which used to be what we were supposed to do when we went to court as a jury. We weren't just supposed to judge the case, as the Zionist lawyers would like us to believe today, but we were also supposed to judge the law. Well, we do that instinctively, and that's one thing that's good. We should do that. That's what, but we only do it, if we have to. So what boils down to the fact that if we had to grow our own food and they had legislated against it, which they just recently did some more of, and they're trying to do it in an all-encompassing manner, but it's still, they're just laws and people would not adhere to those laws. So what do? They spray poisons out of aircraft for 10 years straight and affect the soil. It's basically a salting of the soil, same thing the Romans did. And then they make these plants that are food plants but will not reseed anymore. You know, the whole scenario is very blatant, you know, and they're just trying to take over the food so that they can stand guard over the food like an alpha dog. And unless people see this and put this mad dog down, the dog is going to control all the food and all the water, and you're going to have to fight with that dog just to eat, you know, and your children too.